I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil lately. During a recent playthrough, I came to the realization that Resident Evil is in a lot of fighting games. So in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into Resident Evil in fighting games. Let's start small with Pocket Fighter. Pocket Fighter, or Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix, is an odd little game. All of the fighters are pocket-sized and collect gems to power up. During some of Chun-Li's attacks, she'll transform into Jill Valentine. This is a pocket-sized reference, but I wouldn't mind seeing more Street Fighter characters dressed as Resident Evil characters. Street Fighter V would deliver on just that with 3 Resident Evil DLC costumes: Urien as RE5 Wesker, Colleen as RE6 Ada Wong, and Cammy as Jill. Each costume has a variation if you use the secret costume code. Urien removes the coat and glasses, while Colleen and Cammy's give them alternate styles, those being Resident Evil 3 Jill and Resident Evil 4 Ada. I'm a fan of the Urien and Cammy costumes, but something about Colleen's feels off. I'll also throw this one in for free. In Resident Evil 0 HD, Billy has a costume based off of Street Fighter Alpha 3's Cody. These are admittedly cool references, but cameos and costumes, they're just not scratching that Resident Evil itch. I feel like I need something marvelous. At the turn of the millennium, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 hit arcades, and Resident Evil was one of Capcom's hottest franchises, so including a Resident Evil character was a no-brainer. Resident Evil's Jill Valentine would be the one repping her series in Marvel 2. Jill is a member of STARS, the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, a special division of the Raccoon City Police Department. She served as the team's breaking and entering specialist, although you won't be using any lockpicks in Marvel 2. Based on her appearance from the first game, Jill fights using a mix of martial arts, weaponry, and even gets some help from the evil residents of the Spencer Mansion. Her arsenal consists of hand-to-hand combat, a grenade launcher, custom Beretta pistol, and a rocket launcher. All of these weapons are ripped straight from the first game, down to the sound effects. Her other special calls upon the monsters of Resident Evil: dive-bombing crows, charging Cerberus dogs, and 2 flavors of zombies that can't wait to take a bite out of your opponent. You can even trip the zombies, turning them into a undead mine of sorts. Her last special, the shoulder tackle, is a direct reference to Captain America's charging star, but Jill's is a charging stars, because she, unlike Steve Rogers, is a member of STARS.
I'm a member of STARS.
See? During her Something's Coming hyper combo, the ultimate lifeform, T-002 Tyrant, breaks through the ground just like the climactic ending of the first game when it comes back. Thankfully, this time he's here to help. And you can repay his kindness by blowing him up for an extra super bar. Jill has one unique assist that isn't in her moveset. If you pick the heal assist, Jill will drop in with a green herb, or, if you're lucky, a red-green combo. Both will heal red health, but the latter heals more. They even replicated the health bar EKG, which was unnecessary but cool. A couple more references can be seen in her intro and victory animations. She can sometimes be seen holding a small key or an ink ribbon. One of her win animations has her using a flare. I was actually shocked that the sprite is 1-to-1 with the item from Resident Evil, since you barely interact with this thing. Such a small detail. Jill does a good job representing the Resident Evil series in Marvel 2. You could argue you could have picked any Resident Evil protagonist from that point and it would have worked, but I think Jill was the right choice. That classic outfit is iconic.
Come on!
In the 2000s, Capcom took a break from arcade fighting games to focus on console games. It wouldn't be until 2009 when Street Fighter returned. And then 2 years later, Marvel vs. Capcom made a comeback as well. In Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Capcom brought in Chris Redfield, Albert Wesker, and Jill Valentine to represent the Resident Evil series, specifically their Resident Evil 5 iterations. They also got their own stage, the Tricell Labs, based off of Resident Evil 5. This should be no surprise, because at the time, Resident Evil 5 was not only the most recent Resident Evil, but also the best-selling Capcom game, and it stayed that way for a while, which is crazy to think about considering most people prefer 4 these days. Tricell Labs is crawling with BOWs. You can even see a tyrant in the background. You think this is the same one from Marvel 2? Items litter the floor, and even that is a reference to how pickups look in Resident Evil 5. In Ultimate Marvel 3, it got a destroyed variant, but I much prefer the color palette of the original. I get they were all in with the RE5 synergy, but there are so many other cool locations from the Resident Evil series they could have pulled from, and this one just feels kinda, I don't know, bland. At this point in time, Resident Evil's gameplay had evolved from survival horror to action horror. This gameplay style has a bigger focus on combating guns. Many of RE5's melee moves are lifted wholesale and put into this game, like Chris's throw or Wesker's launcher. If you thought Jill was strapped in Marvel 2, Chris is armed to the teeth. Chris Redfield is a STARS member who survived the Spencer Mansion incident and now works for an anti-bioterrorism organization. He's got a weapon for every occasion: pistol, SMG, shotgun, flamethrower, stun rod, knife, machete, rocket launcher, satellite laser, a grenade launcher with multiple ammo types, mines, grenades, and 3 pythons. 1 magnum and 2 arms to carry his team to victory. You might think with all of those weapons, it's silly for him to even consider punching things, but remember, this guy punches boulders. I think you have a better chance of survival getting shot. I do find it interesting that they opted to give Chris most of his early game weaponry instead of the stronger variants you get later in RE5. His Magnum is the strongest weapon of the bunch. Not only does it wall bounce on hit, it also powers through projectiles. Satellite Laser is an interesting level 3 since it lets you aim the reticle. It even hits OTG. Most of Chris's colors are Marvel 3 originals, but his 6th color is a reference to fellow zombie slayer, Chuck Green from Dead Rising 2. Chris's alternate costume is based off of his STARS uniform from the Resident Evil remake. In Chris's ending, Wesker is having his day in court, prosecuted by Matt Murdock. He mouths off a little before Chris restrains him. Capcom changed to this in Ultimate Marvel 3 because I guess manhandling a restrained prisoner isn't that heroic. They modified this panel to show him being arrested first, then he is put on trial. Compared to Marvel 2 Jill, Chris's moveset is a lot more gun focused, but that's really just being faithful to Resident Evil 5. I mean, just take a look at these two moves side by side. The attention to detail is insane.
First attack!
Albert Wesker is the first villain from the Resident Evil franchise to appear in Marvel. In Resident Evil, Chris makes fun of him.
Chris? Stop it.
And then he dies. Thankfully, he got better, returning with a grudge and Matrix powers. Unlike Chris, who he despises.
I despise Chris.
See? Wesker is a hand-to-hand fighter who zips around the screen with teleports and fast movement. Everything Wesker does in his boss fights, he can do here. And I mean everything. That level 3 hyper combo is named after the Lost in Nightmares DLC from RE5, for some reason. The coolest thing about Wesker are his shades, and they serve a gameplay purpose. When Wesker has his shades off, or they get damaged, he gains a 10% speed buff and up to a 15% damage buff. These buffs stack with X Factor, but if you want to be cool, you can taunt to pull out a fresh pair. Wesker's alternate costume, like Chris, is his star's uniform from the Resident Evil remake. In Wesker's ending, he captures all of these superheroes, making them his next test subjects. He also references Alexia Ashford and Lisa Trevor. This was changed to a Marvel pun in Ultimate Marvel 3, and I hate to say it, but it is in character. Wesker would 100% say this. Early on in the game's competitive life, Wesker was a very popular character for tournament play. He's a straightforward character that's easy to understand with one of the best OTG moves in the game, the down gunshot, which is also an assist. These were highly valued traits in a character at the time. However, nowadays, you don't see him much. I always just assumed he got nerfed like Tronbon or She-Hulk. While he did admittedly get nerfed in Ultimate, over time, he just fell off naturally as the game developed. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was released in February of 2011, with Ultimate Marvel 3 dropping only 9 months later in November. That isn't a lot of time for a fighting game meta to develop, especially for a game like Marvel 3. Time marched on and Wesker was dethroned by better characters like Virgil, Dr. Doom, Zero, and Magneto. The characters better than him can give him a pretty hard time shutting down his game plan. Wesker is still good, but he's not the meta-defining monster he was once known to be. Jill Valentine is back, but in name only. She's got a new look and a new moveset, sharing nothing with her Marvel 2 counterpart. This is because Jill tackled Wesker out a window. He then brainwashes and experiments on her, causing her hair to turn blonde. Jill is a melee-focused stance character with an emphasis on kicks. No zombies come to help her this time, but they're not out of a job, as Frank West uses them for his moveset. With feral crouch stance, she can move fast, extend combos, and run mix-ups. The only weapons she has are 2 SMGs she uses for her spin-to-win hyper combo that can plow through zoning thanks to the invincibility. Her level 3 hyper combo, Mad Beast, is an install that puts her in a permanent feral crouch stance and lets her teleport around the screen. It's really hard to control, but you can do some really cool stuff with it. Jill's alternate outfit is based off of her Resident Evil 3 design, although it looks really strange on this version of Jill. In Jill's ending, she's no longer brainwashed and teams up with Blade to fight monsters. Jill's gameplay in Marvel 3 is unique, but there's really nothing here for fans of the character, and I'm sure the majority would have preferred having a regular Jill any day of the week. That's not the game's fault. They worked with what they had and made something out of it. The moral of the story is blame RE5. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 added 12 new characters, including our 4th and final Resident Evil 3's Nemesis. The Nemesis is a bioweapon with one goal: eradicating the remaining STARS members. Nemesis is a big body character with slow, powerful attacks backed up by long-range tentacles and a rocket launcher for good measure. For the longest time, I assumed most of his moveset was made for this game, but when I went to go back to get footage for this video, imagine my shock when this dude blitzed me with a rocket launcher haymaker. He even has an OTG command grab. It must have been his destiny to be in a fighting game. Nemesis's alternate outfit is from Resident Evil 3 when his shirt gets burned off after he gets blown up on the train. His level 3 hyper combo is rather infamous because it has no invincibility, meaning you can just slap him out of it. I at least respect that they used the weird mutated design from the end of the original game. In Nemesis's ending, he is being modified by Oswald Spencer and Malcolm Colcord, one of the people behind the Weapon X project. If you thought regular Nemesis was bad, now he's got Wolverine claws. Out of all of the RE characters in this game, he has to be my favorite because it is so satisfying blowing people up and landing those big hits. Those are all of the Resident Evil characters in Marvel 3. Although, there's still some juice to be squeezed from this lemon. In Heroes and Heralds mode, you collect cards to power yourself up and defend or seize the Earth. These cards feature characters not in the main roster. Resident Evil is no exception. Leon, Claire, Hunk, and a liquor can be a part of your deck. Pretty exciting, huh? Marvel 3 did the Resident Evil series justice, but we've got one more Marvel game to cover, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Commander Redfield, did you have something to add? Some great insight?
Need an egg?
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is the last stop on this journey, and we're not staying long. Chris and Nemesis are ported over from Marvel 3 with slight changes to their moveset to fit this game. Chris, for example, has to manage his magnum ammo before he has to reload. They don't do much in the story. I think Nemesis fights Spider-Man and Frank West at one point, but they do get new alternate costumes. Chris is based off of his unlockable outfit from the original Resident Evil, and Nemesis gets Mr. X's trench coat. I remember being extremely disappointed we got these two again, because I wanted to see new characters, which is a sentiment you can apply to the entirety of Marvel Infinite. One day, if we do get a new Marvel or another Capcom crossover fighter, I have a couple ideas for new Resident Evil reps. Leon being the most obvious. He could play like Chris, but with different weapons and maybe even a stronger focus on melee. Ada is another no-brainer. She could have specialized weapons like the bow and spy gadgets. My totally out there, never gonna happen pick is Joe Baker from RE7's DLC. Every other Resident Evil character uses guns, but not Joe. It's just fists, spears, and a power gauntlet. Dude is a beast, and I would love to play as him in a fighting game. On the other hand, his brother, Jack Baker, makes even more sense. He's the most memorable part of RE7, and as soon as he punched me in the face, I knew that had to be a fighting game super. He's got a car, crazy weapons like chainsaw clippers, and you can't tell me it wouldn't be fun to beat people up with the evil Louisiana grandpa. Honestly, you could just take any Resident Evil character and put them in a fighter. Resident Evil is well represented in the world of fighting games. Marvel 3 handled things well, but Marvel 2 Jill will always hold a special place in my heart because she represents Resident Evil the best, with a mix between creatures and weapons. What more is there to say than Code Veronica is the worst game in the series and Resident Evil 0 is objectively better. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.